Welcome, unpopular explorers. Welcome back to Strange Trek. We haven't done this in a while. We had to take a break. A lot has happened over the course of a year or so. Life be lifing. That's all I can say. Life be lifing. So, but we want to get back into this. There's a lot that has occurred since the last episode that we've done. We want to try to do this more regular, but once again, welcome back to the Unpopular Black Gaming channel. We are doing Strange Trek, where we talk about the weird and craziness of Star Trek and just have discussion about it. And as always, my boy Patrick is with me. Say hi, Patrick.
Hello, everybody. Has
And
it
we're
really been a year?
It's been a year. It's been a year. I have to look at when the last time we uploaded the previous
Hmm.
episode, and 11 months. 11 months. So,
So we did an episode right after the cruise, me, you, and all of our friends
yes,
went on, and
yes,
then that was it for the year.
yes,
Interesting.
that is exactly what
Okay.
occurred. But, like I said, stuff happens.
Yeah. What was our last episode topic?
Our last episode topic was, that is a very good question. I'm gonna have to look that up. Uh,
If it wasn't along the lines of why you shouldn't vote for Donald Trump, then we failed.
so this
Is that too soon? Is that,
probably. Um,
dadgummit. Sorry, internet.
actually, it was uh, the tech in the Star Trek world. Remember,
Oh,
because
that was a fun chat.
we had to
Yep.
redo it because the first one we couldn't really, your audio wasn't
Yep.
heard, so
So
we
we
had to
tested
redo
the
it.
audio before this one. So.
Yeah. So we both definitely come in pretty loud, pretty clear. We have made some updates to this, by the way. So I hope we sound a whole lot better. Um, One of the things that's still the same is uh, we have the Star Trek Resurgence background, which this is the only thing that I can currently have up that allows us to record this audio because we're doing it through PlayStation. So we can do the chat because, I mean, me and Patrick live in two totally different states. So
Yep.
I'm sure there's a better way of doing this. I'm trying to research that along with trying to have a actual family, also work. So, you know, like I said before, life be lifing. I hope to have a
Indeed.
better layout of this go in the future. But as of right
I
now,
think the
this
people understand. I think the unpopular explorers get it.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
They have
And
lives too.
and I mean, and this is mainly set up in a way to where it's just a listen. You don't have to watch anything. We won't have anything on screen. This is the only background I have, but we're just discussing strange things within Star Trek. And
Hmm.
without further ado, we're going to get into this episode. Whew, this is gonna be a big one, a big one.
Yeah, I made that Donald Trump reference for a reason.
Yeah, he did. And seeing as how America is the way that it is, if you do not know what's going on in America, then I want to
Then,
know.
then you should thank God,
Uh, no, I really need to know where they live.
and also tell Dante where you
like,
live.
I really need to know because regardless of where you are in the world, you know that we have this crazy person as our president, which, I mean, spoiler alert, neither one of us voted for. Um, just to get that off.
And a further spoiler alert: not even like we lodged a protest vote for someone else because we didn't like we literally were trying.
Yes, yes,
And I live in a
yes.
battleground state and was doing my best
I do not
to make
live in a
sure this
battleground
didn't
state.
happen.
I live in a Republican state, and I still voted for the Democrat, which is Kamala Harris. Still, we all know what happened.
Yeah.
And once again, if you don't know, where do you live? Anywho, Today's topic, we're going to discuss could fascism, fasc- darn it, I did it. See, we were talking about this
You made
offline.
it. You made it through it though. You said fascism.
If it sounded
You
like
made it.
if it sounded like I really, really slurred it though.
No, you're in
I'm,
your head. It was
I'm,
fine.
I'm having an issue saying the word. Could fascism occur in the Federation? So,
Yep.
um, of course, one of the things that made us come up with this particular topic is what's going on in America. Some people believe that this is not the case. I feel that those people are completely wrong. We have someone who wants to make themselves the de facto king in America when America was not set up to be like that. It was always supposed to be a democratic republic where the people decided who the leader should be, not based on a nobility background or bloodline to become the leader of what is known as the free world, quote unquote. So,
He's posted a picture of himself with a crown on his head,
mm-hmm,
referring to himself as the king. And him and his party have made very specific designs and references to how we should live our personal lives, um, and what they think is a good personal life for someone, which is very much over the freedom line,
it's
for as much as they talk about it.
completely over the freedom line. It's basically saying this is what we feel is right, and this is what you need to conform to, which is not what America's about. Granted,
Yeah.
granted, America has gone through a lot over the
Yep.
centuries that it's been a country. Uh, but ultimately, we got to the point where, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom just to live your life the way you want to live your life, regardless of whether someone else feels differently about how you live your life. You're still allowed to be able to live your life the way that you feel is right. So we wanted to explore that in the Star Trek realm and pretty much touch on episodes or things that we've seen online. The people that would say, "Yeah, this probably Federation could probably be a fascist government." Which one of the
Yep.
main things that Patrick had me listen to was Matt Pat. Um, he uh, created an episode roughly 8 years ago stating that the Federation is kind of a fascist government. And Patrick, I'll let you speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, he's totally wrong, and he, he. I honestly wonder if he did it just to get a reaction because there was a lot of reaction in the comments and things like that. And usually his stuff is like so thorough and researched that it didn't even feel like a good episode of his that he did. It felt like he maybe did at the last minute. So that's me liking Matt Pat and trying to look over it. But everything he
Mm-hmm.
said in the video was pretty much about what Starfleet can do once you're in Starfleet. And that's a big distinction between the civilian life and what you're allowed to do as a civilian in the Federation. And that's the first thing that everyone needs to understand if you're looking at authoritarianism or the specter of fascism in your country is that it's about how you, as someone who's not part of the government anyway, is allowed to live your life and what rights you have. So he didn't get into any of that. He talked about a lot about how specific Starfleet officers were treated, but it's like, well, you're in Starfleet. It's like the army can treat you differently in your army
Mm-hmm.
life than
Mm-hmm.
you can be in your civilian life. So he totally mixed that, but I've seen him not do that in other videos of his. So I'm like, I don't know if that was just like, let's throw this together and get a reaction, but yeah, he's totally wrong. The baseline of the Federation is that it's not fascist.
And,
So I
and to give a clear baseline of of what fascism is, I actually have the Merriam-Webster dictionary up with the definition of fascism. So it states a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition.
I think the dictionary nailed it.
It did.
That's
It really
yeah,
did. Because
yeah.
when I think about fascism, with looking at the Star Trek universe, I think of the Romulan Star Empire. Like
Hmm.
they have a government centralized, and you know what? I don't think they ever really focused on like their supreme. Do they have like a supreme leader or like a
I think it's a praetor.
praetor? I
Yeah, I
feel
thought
like I
they
should
had.
know that.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
the Romulus Senate. They talk about the Romulus Senate a lot in multiple episodes of Star
They
Trek.
have a senate, but I think their decision maker is a praetor. I'll Google it here in a second to make
Okay.
sure that's the case. But I thought like the Romulan praetor was the because wasn't that the whole thing in Nemesis, the really craptastic ending of the of the TNG
Well, but
saga?
I've and forgive me, it's been a minute since I've watched that particular movie. I have watched it multiple times,
Because why
but
would we rewatch it? Why would anyone watch?
I've rewatched it. You know me. I rewatch Star Trek stuff all the time just to be like, it was that really as terrible as I thought it was? Yep. It was as terrible
Hmm.
as I
Yeah,
thought
it
it
was.
was back in
It
my
was.
day.
You didn't need to watch it the second time.
I really did not, but you know, we've talked about how I've viewed Star Trek in my younger years versus how in my older life, how I see a lot of Star Trek. Because you know, at one point in time, Star Trek Voyager was my favorite uh, Star Trek line.
And then you grew up and realized, mm-mm.
Exactly. Now it's
Like,
Star Trek
nah.
Deep Space Nine, and Voyager is like is it's shooting close to last place, not fully last place because you know you got Star Trek Picard there
But really,
now.
only two seasons of it. The third season
True,
was, yeah.
and really we this would be a different topic on another day, but we probably should look at Star Trek Picard as just having that one season and not the full three seasons. But well, that's another conversation
In
for another
defense
day.
of the unpopular explorers with us, probably be more entertaining for us to talk about the first two seasons, as painful as it would be.
Oh my god, we can I can rip every last episode to shreds. Oh my god.
Hey, it's rough. Okay, I hopped on in memory alpha, and
Uh
yeah,
huh.
the Romulan praetor is the head of state, the political and military leader,
Did they
administrator.
did they ever show him in any of the episodes? Now I'm thinking about it. It's I always saw like
So,
a senator or like a, a military like a top military leader, but never like the praetor.
so they have pictures of three of them in here. I only remember Shinzon
Get
from the movie because
out.
that was like his big play. He was like, "I want to be praetor," and
Oh yeah, that's right.
but they got pictures of two other ones, and I have no idea. They look like both of them are from
It could have been the
Deep
original
Space
series.
Nine, maybe. Say
Yeah,
what?
I was about to say one of them parts from the original series, but you said
No,
they
no, no.
look like
They're
they're from Deep
all
Space Nine.
yeah. They both look like they're Deep Space, or at least 24th century era Star Trek. So we've only seen three of them, which is actually kind of cool because the Romulans are always supposed to be very mysterious. So we shouldn't have like a bunch of pictures
That is true.
of their head of state.
It's one of the mystiques of that race within Star Trek.
Yeah.
But I never really could say that that the Federation is more of a fascist government, or even had some elements of it.
Yeah. It, before we dive into that,
Uh huh.
I think you did an interesting thing picking an alien race or alien from us, non-Federation race. I think the and this is going to get interesting.
Mm
The Romulans are fascist. I think the Cardassians are fascist,
hmm. Mm hmm.
and I think the Klingons are fascist.
To a certain degree.
Yeah,
To a certain degree, and I did want to explore that more within
yeah,
this
our
episode.
allies. I think I think are fascist. Okay, so you had that to do later.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah, I did. It's funny because that was one of my thoughts was like, oh, we could talk about the Klingons and how their or not organization, their government, quote unquote, looks in comparison to the Federation, and would you consider
yeah,
that more of a fascist government? So, but I do want to explore the Federation first because I feel like yeah, as we get onto the other races within the Star Trek universe, yeah, we could probably lean more towards there. And granted, the writers Gene Roddenberry and those who preceded him did this purposefully, in my opinion, because they always wanted to dictate well, not dictate, more so pinpoint that the Federation is the epitome of a civilian government, uh, creating a society that's more so of a paradise, really.
yeah,
The top official, which is the Federation president, is elected. He is elected by the people of the Federation, and it's not just Earth. It's Earth, Vulcan, everybody who is a part of the Federation, every planet, every
and
citizen.
the battleground planet of Pennsylvania planet.
That's funny. Which planet would be the battleground planet? Which is as we're looking at CNN of Star Trek, as you're looking at the board and they're
I know,
pointing
right?
into the planets, is like, all right.
I think so. Just fully nerd out for a minute. I think the Tellarite planet, because they always argue with each other,
Yes, yes,
would be a
yes.
hotly contested
That
planet.
would be. That would be. It would definitely be a 50-50 toss up with them.
Yeah,
100%. The Vulcans are
uh,
too logical, so I can see almost all of Vulcan leaning towards one way.
yeah, exactly. Um, I wonder how Beta Z would play out. That'd be a hard one to strategize for because they just like read your mind and know if you're authentic or not. So,
But you can't do
but I don't
that
know if that.
through. You would have to be like close to that person. Like you can't do that through like listening to a broadcast that's coming from Earth and you're all the way on Beta Z.
You think you're gonna win the Federation presidency without going to Beta Z?
Okay, you got a point.
You gotta do
Also,
some barnstorming through the Federation.
and granted, like we're thinking about this, or we're looking at this in the same context of a United States election, where you have your primaries that happens normally the year or so before, and then leading up into the actual year of campaigning for the presidency, which normally starts in what like January or February of that
Yeah.
year,
Mm-hmm.
and then ends or concludes, I should say, in November when everybody voted. So it's like a 10 to 11 month span there.
Yeah, really a like 18 to 24 months, man, because of what you're saying, like all the
Well, yeah,
pre-campaigning
well, yeah, all the
you're
but
doing.
that's I'm thinking of the primary, like the primary, yeah,
Yeah.
18 to 24 months. But once the primary is over with, once like the main two are selected, it's like 10 months, really.
No, it's way less than that because the conventions are in August and
Oh
September.
yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
And yeah, you get down to two. You effectively get down to two, like probably about April, May of that year. So you're looking at like 6 or 7 months to make your case. And then if your 82-year-old candidate drops out during the summer, then less than that. Um,
You're not
sorry,
alluding to a specific thing that has occurred, have you? Uh,
if
oh, it,
that happens to you,
it was something in
that's
Star
all
Trek.
I'm
That was
saying.
the episode that I didn't see. I got it.
That was the
I got it.
episode of Star Trek. That was the episode of the animated series that I haven't seen, where that happened.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so like looking at it from
Well, can
that,
I?
I'm pretty sure it would have to be a lot longer as far as a campaigning for the Federation president. Like I'm pretty sure it would have to be much longer than that.
If the expectation is that, like it is here in the United States, that at some point the candidate's going to visit your state multiple times, then yeah, it'd have to be a pretty long process. If in the 24th, 25th century or whatever, people accept your Zoom presentation as all they need to know, it could go a lot faster. But yeah,
I would
uh,
I would agree with you. I'm pretty sure they would have to visit the planet at some point
yeah. Well, because
because even
it
though
felt like.
I'm sorry. I at least wanted to touch on
Mhm.
this because even though, yeah, the Federation votes for their particular leader, so to speak, each planet still has their individual leader
Yeah,
installed in that
and
in
placement in the Federation Council.
exactly, exactly. So it's not like the president is the de facto leader like a king. It's still democratically appointed, and he still has to follow the will of the people,
Yeah, or
which
she,
or
like in
she, yeah,
Discovery.
or she, which is still a democratic notion, I should say.
Yeah, the answer would change if you follow what some people I read online, like very briefly. This is a lightly researched episode, everybody, for behind the scenes.
They didn't have to
We
know
just had
that.
to get started. I like to be transparent with the unpopular explorers.
This
Um,
is lightly researched.
yeah, there are some people that have said that the Federation president is picked by the Federation Council. And in that case, a fascism takeover is a lot easier because it's a smaller group of people to pick the leader. There's less you have to do. If you have to go planet by planet and like, go to the battleground planets like we're joking
Mm-hmm.
about to to try and get support, then it's much less likely, unless there's a Federation Electoral College, which there's nothing out there that says that
That
is the
would that
case.
that would oh my god, that would that. Whew.
Nothing would ever happen in the Federation if that was the case. There would be no point.
That would be sad that by the 24th, 25th century that we're still relying
We
on
haven't
this
gotten rid of the
archaic
Electoral
system.
College.
Yes, yes, yes.
The system built to preserve slavery is still somehow governing who the leaders are. Yeah.
And so membership of the council, um, I would take it if I'm remembering correctly. It's like one representative from each race or planet.
I think so. Not to bring in that other franchise with stars in the title that sometimes we have a rivalry with, but that's how I kind of imagine it. Like maybe it's one, maybe it's like two or three, but everyone has equal representation. Kind of like our Senate, our U.S. Senate. Like if there's one person on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
you still somehow
Mm-hmm.
get two senators, right?
And
So that's how I kind of think of it.
and as I remember it from the Star Trek movies, when Kirk did the
All
Star
right. Mm-hmm.
went to go save Spock or whatnot, and then when he came back, was put on trial. He was put on trial. It wasn't the president that he answered to; it was the council. It was the Federation Council that actually stripped him of his admiral rank
Yeah.
and demoted him
Which
to a
actually
captain.
which actually is a very good point to make. And a very good point for people in the United States to remember about what's not happening right now
Hmm.
that makes it scary is that the legislative branch, your Congress, your Federation Council, whatever, is supposed to actually have all the ultimate power. That's the first thing that keeps it from trending towards the autocratic part of that definition
Yeah, because it's a group
is
of people
that
and not just one person.
precisely. So the fact that the Federation Council was disciplining Kirk is a big sign that, at least at that time in Star Trek, um, it'd be very hard to institute fascism in the Federation. After the burn, have you watched the last season of Discovery yet?
I have not watched the last season of Discovery yet. I
Okay.
have not.
Well, but you saw the season before, but you know
Hmm.
there's a lot of emphasis on the Federation president herself. And I don't quite remember a lot of references to the Federation Council in there. So I wonder if, like, the post burn, and
What?
yes, this is a Star Trek podcast that Discovery is canon, so get over yourself. Um, if that
And I
version of
want
the
to touch.
Federation
I
might be a
want to.
little bit.
I want to touch on that real quick. If you think
Mhm.
that Discovery is not canon, you are not a Trekkie. I'm sorry to say.
We are gatekeeping.
And like you can have your opinion on whether it embodied Star Trek the way that previous uh, renditions of it have. You can have your opinion on that, saying that it wasn't as great as the previous ones, or it. But to say that it isn't Star Trek is it's wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, it's just wrong.
It's canon, and if you see the last episode, um, the last bit of it is actually really beautiful Star Trek. I think because they didn't know that this last season was going to be the last season, I don't think they would have gone in the direction that they did with that season, but it was
Yeah,
still entertaining. But yeah, like Discovery saved us. We're back on TV because of them. So
exactly,
um,
exactly. A lot of Star Trek spun off because of Discovery. But anywho, I'm
not to
sorry.
be a Star Trek fascist, but I will not hear arguments to the contrary.
I like that.
No problem.
But yeah, continue what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so later after the burn, there's a lot of emphasis on the president, narratively speaking,
Yeah, but
and
wasn't
so the
that
president.
wouldn't
Mhm.
they? Wasn't that then? You're referring to the Earth president, though.
No, the Federation president. Oh shoot, what's the lady's name? Because yeah, they feature the other presidents,
Oh,
um,
that's right.
but the Federation president is like the person that they're talking to. So like back in the day, Kirk was punished by the council, and now after the burn, there's a lot of focus on the Federation president, whose name is escaping me right now. And I wonder if something happens after the burn that makes it more about that one person than the council, and that would leave the Federation more open to fascism at that point,
Well,
because then
but
you're looking for that strong autocratic figure to solve your problems.
but you know that because of the burn, they pretty much were cut off from all the Federation planets. So
Yeah,
not only communications wise, but like travel, of course. So I think that was them trying to maintain some semblance of authority if they were still um, having the Federation go on. So
yeah.
they had the pretty much the head, the president of Federation, but there was no council because the council was uh, a, a leader from each Federation member planet, which at that point, because of the burn, like
Oh, that's
everybody was
good.
not a part of the Federation anymore, pretty much,
So really, it could have been easier for that version of the Federation
to
to
become a
fall into
fascist government.
fascism.
Yeah,
But it seems like at that point they were so indignant about still having a federation that the spirit of it wasn't there for to do that. So before the internet comes for me, her last name is Rilak. Her first name is something I can't really pronounce.
yeah, because isn't she like
Lyra.
part Romulan?
I
No,
didn't
not
catch
Romulan,
this when
Cardassian.
I was going to say I didn't actually catch this while I was watching the last two seasons of Discovery, but she's a human Cardassian Bajoran hybrid.
Oh wow.
I'm like, as someone whose favorite series is Deep
Deep
Space
Space
Nine, I'm like,
Nine. Yeah.
what
Wow.
happened? What?
Wow.
Who did what and then did what later? Like how?
I mean, but like also at the same time with us being in 2025, if you would have told somebody back in
hmm
the 30s that there would be all these mixed races within the United States, I'm pretty sure they would be like, what who did what exactly what you just said.
I know exactly. I mean, I mean, I know we'll get probably at some point to a hopeful part of this recording, but like that is the hope that time seems
Mm.
to really not like fascism. And on a long enough timeline, it usually gets pretty erased. But I'm sure we can delve into that more. But yeah, that's an unexpected hopeful signal from fiction that a human Cardassian Bajoran hybrid. Why did they label her a hybrid? Person. Person leads the Federation in 3191.
Well, okay, so what
And
made
she's a pretty effective leader of the Federation. So,
she at least from what I've seen in not the last season of Discovery, but yeah, she sounded sensible. She understood and paid attention to pretty much both sides of an argument, from what I could tell. Even though it kind of looked like she was against Burnham in the
hmm
beginning, it was really her analyzing her and seeing what type of captain she really was. So, which is to me a really good leader, in my opinion. Like somebody that doesn't like. I'm not immediately casting judgment, but I do want to see how you react to certain situations before I fully draw my conclusion about you.
yeah, yeah. Or what you can have is someone who thinks that they're right all the time and only cares about themselves, um,
That's never happened,
and
right?
will mangle facts, policies, and opinions just to service himself.
Oh God, what kind of
Um,
person is that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they really exist. And certainly, if they exist, they wouldn't be elected president of the
Of
United
course
States,
not.
right?
I'm pretty
Of
sure they
course not.
wouldn't. You know,
How
I
would
think the
that
people
happen?
would be too smart to not elect that particular
And and
person.
even and even if it happened once, it wouldn't happen again,
It wouldn't
right?
happen twice.
Right.
It wouldn't. No,
Surely,
no, surely.
surely.
Um,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
but
reach for this whiskey now.
I kind of wish that I would have created a new glass before this, before we started.
You didn't pour a new glass before the fascism episode?
I was half. It was an old fashioned. I was already halfway through it, and I'm just like, I don't want to get, I want to be, calm enough to be able to have this conversation, but I don't want to be toasted enough to where I can't even get my points across. So,
Yeah, agreed, agreed. Good call, good call.
but
Remember, kids, it's important to know your limits.
always, always, and don't drink and drive.
And never, please don't. Especially, okay, sidebar. Um, I think Mike Johnson's, the Speaker of the House, Chief of Staff, got arrested for DUI. And just like when it happens to NFL players or famous actors and actresses, I'm like, how? You have money.
Yeah, you have
Like, what are
you
you
can
doing?
call a Uber, a Lyft, or even I'm pretty sure you have. Well, I think he has friends that can
So the Speaker of the House has a security detail. Like, just get
you
one
know,
of them to take
I
you
did not even
home.
think about that part. You're
And
right.
if you're parked somewhere that's going to get towed, keep in mind you have money. You can
Yeah.
pay to get it out of impound. You don't have to put all of our lives at risk.
Besides the point,
Anywho,
though.
the
So, so
the
yeah,
unpopular Black Gamer channel is against drunk driving, decidedly.
100%. So what really the episode within the Star Trek universe that really made me think about this particular topic was Star Trek D Space Nine episode called Paradise Lost, where
And Homefront.
in Homefront, yeah, because it was two part,
Mm-hmm.
where Cisco and Odo went to Earth because that was in the heat of of the Dominion War, and the head.
Well,
What
there
was
had been
his
a terrorist
title?
attack. There had been a terrorist
Yeah, there was
attack
a
on Earth.
terrorist attack. You're right. There was a
Hmm.
terrorist attack on Earth that drove made them come to Earth because they were the pretty much the people that knew the most about the Dominion. So their
Yeah,
whole
and the changelings.
and the changing. So their whole thing was to pretty much shore up the defenses of Earth to where that wouldn't occur again. And of course, in Star Trek fa- uh, fashion, shenanigans ensued to where the president pretty much instated martial law and
Yeah, he
gave
gets convinced.
yeah and gave the head admiral of the Federation pretty much dictatorial powers.
Yeah, that was Admiral Layton, who is played by a very famous character actor whose name I can't remember, of course, because this is a lightly researched episode. But
Very good actor though.
yeah, a very good actor. And yeah, he really uses it as his moment to try to take over the Federation and be the military and political leader at the same time, deposing a democratically elected leader.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these two, even though I haven't watched them, and if this had been a more research episode, I would have watched these two episodes. If I haven't watched them recently,
Mm-hmm.
those two episodes and the two episodes, the two-parter, The Way of the Warrior, and Deep Space Nine, those are like my favorite episodes in Deep Space Nine because of what they explore and get into.
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. Yeah, that I would have to put that in one of my top, not only D Space Nine episodes, but one of our top episodes in Star Trek. Period. Of course, we all know what's my number one, but um, yeah, like because it
It's the
point.
one where Dax kisses Vanessa Williams.
Oh, 100%. Uh, because
Cut that out. I don't need that one on the internet.
too
I don't
late,
need
too
that
late.
joke.
Sorry there, sorry there. You can't take it back. Uh,
That was Dante that said that.
sure, sure. No, but it pointed on fear, how fear can lead to making decisions that pretty much upend paradise as you know it. Because in the Federation, uh, there is no true crime. There is no hunger. Everyone has a job, and the job that you select is the job that you are really suited for. You decided like this is what I want to pursue. You don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about um, maintaining a job in order to maintain your living.
Yeah. Well, and I was mentioning it before we got on. That's what makes this exploration of fascism really interesting because usually fascism and the
Mm-hmm.
fascist threat that we live under now,
Mm-hmm.
the authoritarian threat we live under now, is driven by something wrong in somebody's economy. Once you get to post scarcity economics,
Mm-hmm.
like that's supposed to be there in Star Trek, where exactly like you said, all the food you need, you pursue your passions for just self improvement. Um, everyone in Starfleet is in space because they just want to explore space. No one's in this quasi military structure because they got to pay off student
Because you
debt or
have to,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is no
You
such
really
thing as saying, huh, it's a living.
Yeah, exactly. So you lose a lot of the levers for fascism to be created. Like Hitler rose up during German hyperinflation and was like, "I'm the guy to solve it. So you need to give me all the power that you need." And
Mm-hmm.
then he did a bunch of horrible stuff afterwards.
Yeah,
So to see,
but even then,
mhm.
that was based off of fear because of what happened in World War One, and Germans didn't
Yeah,
want
yep.
to. They basically wanted to
And
be back to the same way that they were before World War One even happened.
and
So,
if you
uh huh,
and if you go to a Holocaust museum, the fear of what they thought powerful Jews could do to them added
yeah,
that as well. Like his
yeah,
racism against them, his anti-Semitism against them, played into that. So it was multi-factor, but part of it was economically driven as well.
And so it's in my opinion such great episodes to point out that yeah, we can be a few uh situations towards being a fascist government or turn into fascism. But like going back to what our main, like the question that we posed at the beginning, is the Federation, or well, not
No,
is, or
we were doing cool. Could,
could,
yeah.
could the Federation be fascist? Yes, yes, it could.
And it's terrifying
It
because it's
is
post scarcity economics. And you're right. It's just if the right fear comes about, once you have a certain level of fear, you're looking for that strongman figure to come in and take over the government, take over everybody's lives,
to make you feel
to
safe again.
protect you, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from what you're fearing. And yeah, it plays out in those two episodes, honestly, kind of brilliantly. Like, um, really two of the best episodes of Star Trek ever, especially in today's day and age where let me continue to stand on the soapbox for a minute, where income inequality, lack of access to health care,
Mm-hmm.
student debt,
Mm-hmm.
child care cost, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that are just driving people into the ground. There's a lot to be afraid of, and there's a lot for someone who wants to be a strongman, like he who shall not be named, that we voted against,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can play on to try to pull the levers of government in a way that it shouldn't be pulled, and we've seen them try to do that. And someone in the Federation like Leighton, the principal bad guy who wanted to institute some form of fascism in the Federation, was basically doing that with the
Basically,
threat of the
yeah,
changelings.
yeah, and really the guy the he who will not be named, as we have stated, he played on a lot of different fears, not just one in particular. Where Leighton played on the fear of the Dominion actually reaching Earth and there being changelings on Earth and them being able to usurp the Federation government and
Yeah.
pretty much destroy paradise as they knew it. The he who will not be named played on totally different, well, not totally different, a multitude of fears, as you pointed out, one of those being economical, and
Mm-hmm.
then pointing you towards some particular bad guy for those
Mm-hmm.
fears,
Mm-hmm.
which just so happen to be those that are not American, or
Immigrants, exactly. Mm-hmm.
people that they feel are not American, which, as we all know, or all should know, I should say, America is a nation of immigrants. We
Yeah, they're
the
through.
only
Except for the
Native
Native Americans.
Americans are the Native Americans.
Only the Native Americans are Native Americans. The rest of us, our lineage got here by some means. Some of us forcibly, like the two people that are leading this chat. Some people came through Ellis Island, like,
Hmm.
but you know,
And that's one of the great
there's
things about the Federation too. The Federation is showing how a multitude of races from multiple different planets came together to create this wonderful organization where everybody can pretty much be who you want to be. If you want to join a federation, you can join the federation and be whatever within the federation, or you can be an artist, or you can be a musician, teacher, whatever. Like whatever your passion was, they allowed you to explore that passion, and that's how you
mm-hmm.
contribute to society.
And that's freedom.
Exactly.
That is freedom at the end of the day. And we lose all that because some folks, um, including the current Oval Office occupant, uh,
Are we just using different terminology as the episode goes on?
yeah, I don't. I mean, I said his name at the top, and now we're just like not saying it because I think the deeper we get into this topic, we have to protect ourselves like, psychologically speaking. Like we can't even say it.
That's true.
Um, they look at the concept of childcare being easier, accessing college and higher education being easier,
Mm-hmm.
and having your health care being easier through government programs as overreach and taking away freedoms and choices from you. But really, at the end of the day, when those things are taken care of, you have more choices than you've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just have to chase the dollar.
And
You
less
can start
fear.
that business. And less fear. Exactly. So, yeah, Paradise Lost and Homefront really show what it is at the end of the day. That, like, it's not money at the end of the day. It's whatever they can make you afraid of, that you think, like, okay,
Exactly.
everyone needs to think the same thing, walk the same way, and do the same things to protect us from a greater fear, and we'll fall into it. And that's fascism
It's
at the
just
end of the
like
day.
it's just like at work. It's pretty much like every year we're focusing on something different to attack that particular fiscal year. So it's
Yeah.
and I normally call it the new hotness. Oh, this is the new hotness for the
This is the new hotness.
year. And that's basically what election seasons normally are. It's like the new hotness. What is the main thing that uh, a multitude of the I should not multitude, a majority of Americans are more so
Or even a
fearful
significant
of?
plurality.
Yeah,
Sorry, I stepped on what you said there,
no, no,
but yeah,
you're right. You're right. And it granted, this past election was uh, a number of things, but one of the main things that I always kept hearing about was the economy, was the prices of everything, how everything is going up, how it's harder to pay for things now than what it used to be.
yeah, and that's pointing back to the plurality point. I just want to remind everyone who's listening to this in the United States, he did not break 50%.
He did not,
There's not a
not at
majority on
all.
his side. So,
There is
uh,
no quote
the,
unquote mandate.
yeah, so uh, I feel like one of the things, and hold on to the point that you just made because I might forget it and ask you about it.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things that we get from Paradise Lost and Homefront is that if you are recognizing what's happening and you fight against it and you stand against it, you can win. I feel like there's too many people, including some people in Congress, for whatever reason, that feel like we're cooked. We are not cooked yet. There is a strong percentage of Americans who do not want what's going on right now. So we're not cooked. We need to keep going.
Granted, I feel like some of them are. Some of them it's not just that they feel that we're cooked. Some of them are scared to fight,
Scared, definitely. Yeah, that's a
and it could be a number of reasons why. It could be that they're afraid of that movement because there are people within that movement that are what's the best terminology to use here? They will hurt you.
they're violent. Yeah.
Very
Well,
violent.
and going back to the episode that kind of kicked off this conversation, Leighton is violent, right? Because he sends out the lady that played Jordy's girlfriend in another episode, but is now a captain.
Oh, that is true. I didn't even pick up that. I should have picked up that. You are right.
I immediately picked that up. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Keep in mind, I haven't seen the episode in a while, but like that
And as
that
someone
made
who
a connection.
rewatches these, like I have watched The Next Generation with at least within the past year, I
Yeah,
that's funny. That never correlated in my mind. But continue.
and
I'm
she was
sorry.
just his holodeck girlfriend, and when he met
Yes,
her in real life, it was like, whoopsie, she's married. But
but
he's willing to be extremely violent too because they're fighting. They mess with Worf, which is like the first mistake. Worf is in command of the Defiant, and
today is a good day to die.
yeah, exactly. And he's sitting there, and everyone in the bridge is looking for their orders, and he's like, "We're gonna fight. I don't know who you think is in the chair right now, but we're fighting, right? Like, I know it's a Starfleet ship, but they shooting at us. We're gonna shoot back. Like that's that's how this is gonna go down." And during that battle, Leighton decides that whoever that character's name is that played Geordi's girlfriend in another episode should use the quantum torpedoes on them. And that's where the episode maybe becomes real life I mean, not real life, but becomes more fictional because she decides on her own after following this fascist that quantum torpedoes is the line.
Yeah.
She's not going to blow up the Defiant. So that's how you hope it would work out in real life. But
Especially
at that
since
point,
her orders
mhm,
were pretty much to neutral, not destroy, but like uh neutralize seems more permanent too. But to disable,
subdue maybe.
yeah, to
Yeah,
disable the
disable
Defiant,
the Defiant.
not
Yeah,
destroy it, not kill everybody that's on board, but just disable it. Um, and then it went from, oh, you're supposed to disable it, to now, no, I want you to destroy that darn thing. So it is a leap, and to in the episodes and the writer's credit for that episode, it did point out her sense of morality within the Star Trek universe of the Federation and their ideals. That, okay, this was a jump.
yeah.
Uh,
I was willing to go this far
yeah,
to protect us from the changelings, but now you are really crossing the line. And in some ways, since we're making the analogies to real life, I think that is part of the hope for where we're in right now. It's not something we have to completely rely on because the pendulum could swing back in politics. We can win elections in the future, things like
yeah,
that could happen. But part of what protects the Federation from a full fascist takeover, like what almost happened in the episode, is that there's still citizens that are like, uh, citizens and Starfleet officers that are like, this isn't.
we're going
I
too
shouldn't be
far here.
firing with. Yeah, this we aren't supposed to use the quantum torpedoes
Yeah.
on our fellow officers. Like they went to the academy too, like. Um,
And I thought it was smart how they used Cisco's father, even though it was making it look like, oh, this is just a reason to uh, pretty much bring in Cisco's father uh, because they're going back to Earth. But they also use Cisco's father as a way of showing someone who has been living in paradise, not
mm-hmm.
in the war, not in the mindset of the Federation, not in the mindset of being scared every day because of this war, and still
Yeah.
being able to like see like what, why are we doing? Look at what this is doing to you. You see
Yeah. Even at some
changelings
point.
everywhere.
Yeah, and at some point he's okay with the blood test. Like they take like his blood, and he's like, "Doop de doo, back to my day." And it's like, no, 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 no. Your government shouldn't be doing that. That's a fascist action. Blood test to see who you are and who you aren't. Like, uh, I wonder. Obviously back then they couldn't see where we're at now, but I wonder if that was a little bit of commentary about how, like, when you're stopping fascism,
Mm-hmm.
reliance on the average citizen is probably not the best place to try to have them figure it out, right? Because
Yeah.
they're consumers of what you're selling, and that's what. And so I will name these folks the Democratic Party. In these first few months here, these first couple of months here, geez, has it even? No, it's not even been 2 months.
It hasn't. It hasn't. It hasn't.
Okay, anywho, let me get myself back together. Um, and these early stages here has made me upset because they are pushing the work back onto the average citizen, and it's like, look, man,
They're doing
if the
a
average citizen wanted to engage in political theory and how to push back on these day in and day out, that's what they would be doing. But
we elected you. This is literally your job.
yeah, yeah, you're supposed to know. Like you're supposed to be that captain in the chair, not using the quantum torpedoes,
Mm-hmm.
or the Cisco and Odo and Worf that are actively resisting what's going on. Because on some level, citizens are going to be like, well, if I guess I need to take a blood test, I got to take a blood test. And some citizens won't think that, but like
Because
those of us who are regular people, you know,
it does get to that point. It does get to a, okay, well, I mean, if this is just to determine whether I'm a changeling or not, go ahead and do it. Where you have other people that would be like, no, like my freedoms are entrenched upon. Like
yeah, yeah,
but also
Yeah,
at
I
the
don't
same
know.
time, but the question there would be, what is there another way to determine whether you're a changeling or not? So it's like
Yeah,
it's crazy how my mind works with this particular situation because I can see both sides of it, but I'm always the person that sees both sides of situations. But
yeah,
I can also see where the slippery slope is too.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. If you can scan people who are just walking around in public, probably a different level. Still a bit
But
intrusive, but a different thing,
it
right?
might as well
Coming
be
up and being like, "I
stop
need
and
your blood."
frisk. It might as well be the stop and frisk thing from in New York that they were doing in New York for a while. Like,
Yeah,
uh, stop
which was
here because
ruled
I think
unconstitutional.
exactly because I think you are holding something that's illegal. Let me stop and
Hmm.
frisk you. So it's pretty much the same lines. And
Yeah,
the fact that now the crazy thing is now that I'm like thinking of it from that particular point of view, like yeah, I can see how terrible that can become. So this is the start of it. This is where we're starting. It seems like this is something that is understandable. We're just trying to make sure that there are no changelings. However, um, Cisco's father also, and his name eludes me right now for some crazy reason.
I don't
Uh,
think they actually do. They actually say his name?
I want to say they do. I
Oh,
want to
okay.
say, or is it
He plays an admiral in one in the Star Trek movie where they
in the
have to
movie?
talk to whales. Star Trek 4, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 also, also the undiscovered country. He was one of the evil admirals.
Oh.
Which is a
Okay.
funny thing. Uh, but
So he has a lot of sympathy for what Leighton's doing.
funny, ain't it? But even Mr. Cisco said in that in those episodes, what's to stop a changeling? The changeling knows that you're going to be testing everybody. So what's to stop the changeling from taking some random human, taking all the blood out of their body and then spewing that out on command?
Right.
It's like so it's showing like yeah, you can go this direction, but like every test has a way of being able to fool it.
And they do that because Cisco busts into the president's office and is like, here's the uh, quasi-military exploration organization
Mm-hmm.
takeover of the government that you're talking about, and then they test him, and they're like, "It's a change. He's a changeling." And I remember him just like throwing the iPad
Yeah, he
down
just threw
on
it
the
down.
table,
It's like, uh,
like
which
"F this."
in a, which is,
Such a good
I'm glad.
black man thing to
Exactly.
do.
I'm
Like
glad you pointed that out because I was like, that is such a black man move in that particular
it's
situation
exactly
where
what I do in that situation. It's exactly what you
it's what
do in
I
that
would do.
situation. I was like, "Oh, what?"
Get the
There you
F
go.
out of here. Like,
Here.
it's just like I'm glad you
Man.
pointed that
Oh,
out.
if you guys have forgotten in the last 11 months, I'm black. Dante's black. It's all
100%.
black here. So, and we
Well,
voted for the black lady for president. So,
yes. Not because she's black.
not because she's black, but also, especially because she's black. We're trying to get this done.
so, so like we touched on where the Federation could be. Like there could be situations that occur that causes the spiral to occur to where they
Hmm.
could become a fascist organization, which goes against definitely what Matt Pat was talking about in that episode. Granted, also at the same time, all the just about all the examples that he uh, went back to in that episode just so happened to be the Kelvin timeline. Uh,
It was Kelvin timeline, and it was still Starfleet actions. Like, there's Starfleet actions that happen not in the Kelvin timeline to Starfleet officers that you could be like, oh,
that's true.
is this allowed in the
That's
Federation?
true.
And things like that. And it's like, well, but they're in Starfleet. Like, if you put in your personal log in Starfleet how much you love the Romulans and how much you hate your captain, and for some reason they have a reason to look into that one day because you go missing, and they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's not the
Like
sense that like
you're not a
every
civilian.
log is being monitored at all times. No, it's a well, if we ever have to go back to this particular situation that occurred, we will want to gain additional context by listening to said logs.
Yeah. I mean, there are moments I think in TNG where they're like, it takes like a senior level officer or maybe two
Mm-hmm.
of them to
Mm-hmm.
open up a personal log
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. So even in Starfleet, who could do whatever they wanted, they have like safeguards. So I don't know what I think. It's very rare that I think that Matt Pat does something just for a reaction, but I think Star Trek's not really his thing, and he just did it for the reaction. So
It was weird
I don't
though,
hold it against him, but yeah.
and I do want to say this is not me hating or disliking Matt Pat at all.
I actually rather like the film theory
I watched a
style theory. Like,
lot of game theory.
yeah, game theory folks, like,
A
their stuff is
lot.
good.
Really, really good, really, really well thought out, really well researched. And I felt like this particular episode was not researched that well. And I feel like he could have really had a better episode if he had someone like a YouTuber that was like geared directly towards Star Trek and could speak to it better than he
Hmm.
could.
Yeah, I agree.
But
But he's retired now, so who cares?
he is, yeah. So now that we touched on the Federation and how they could be a fascist organization, I do
Because we
want
both
to
have
explore.
concluded yes.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yes, they could. Um, I do want to explore the other races in Star Trek. And
well,
uh huh.
before we do that, are we gonna do like what keeps them from falling into fascism after this, or should we do that now?
Ooh, what keeps the Federation from falling into fascism?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can go ahead and do that right now.
Okay. Because I want to do the other races too, because that's gonna get buck wild a little bit. Um, and we don't have to stay on this long, but I feel like it's important for those of us who live in the United States. And honestly, it's a bit of a global phenomenon because things are happening in Germany that
Hmm.
are a little bit scary. Things have been happening in Israel and their government for a long time now.
Hmm.
Don't come at me, okay, with this, but Netanyahu was doing things before the war that was like kind of scary. So maybe like a lot of people could hear this. One of the things I think helps them not become fascist, even under direct fascist threat, is the empowered, knowledgeable citizenry, the people who are like in power, actively opposing them. And I think Homefront and Paradise Lost um, realizes that, like shows
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I think commitment to constitutional values by people throughout the whole government and the respect that they have for that separation of powers between the Federation Council and the Federation President, which
hmm,
is terrifying because we don't have that right now. Hopefully, we can get it back
hopefully.
relatively quickly here.
Hopefully it's not eroded to the point where we can't. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Exactly. Is a big thing. And I think some of that works its way back to the fact that they are in post scarcity economics as well. I'm a business person, guys, so I always end up back at the money. But like I feel like it's even if the fascist threat throws up, edit that out. Even if the fascist threat shows up and you're working on a basis where things are more affordable, you have more access to health insurance and childcare and things like that, it's a lot easier to unwind it than give it an atmosphere to grow. And I think a lot of those things work in the Federation's favor. Um, and to give some
yeah,
hope to America, works in our favor a bit. Not
yeah.
everything is perfect, but works in our favor a bit to stave off a fascist threat.
I agree with everything that you just pointed out, but I'll also add in the in I'm always the type of thinker that thinks about more of the human element of things,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just a. I'm just giving. Patrick knows this, but I'm just giving more insight to the unpopular explorers that are listening. Um, Fear is a major
Mm-hmm.
driving factor in a lot of our irrational
Mm-hmm.
moments. If you go back and think about a lot of the crazier things that you have done over the years, things that probably were either out of character or you look back on it now, it's like, why in the world did I even go that direction? 9 times out of 10, it can be traced back to fear. You were fearful of something, and that was driving your decision making.
Yep.
And I believe that was one of the biggest things for me seeing this past election cycle and how people were thinking and how people did vote. They were looking at that one thing that drove them to want to choose this person
Mm-hmm.
to lead them, even though everything suggested that they shouldn't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, granted, like there are some that like believe that that was purely the right decision. You can't make them see anything differently. But there are some now that are looking at that particular decision as like, why did I do this? Why did I vote this
Yep.
direction? It was fear.
FAFO. Yeah. Yeah. The people, I mean, just to build on that, the people that see this as the right thing and you can't change your mind otherwise are not enough people to win an election
No,
anywhere.
I'm,
Yeah.
I have to believe in humanity enough to feel that that's not the case.
No, well, and I also think the data is the case. Um, I mean, I haven't gotten the latest polling from the Federation presidential election, but the polling here in the United States shows that that's the case in a bunch of places. You have to have fear and scarcity thinking rampant through the populace in order to turn that into a big enough plurality, a near majority,
Mm-hmm.
in order to pull off
Mm-hmm.
electoral wins. So yeah, you're not wrong.
And
You have to. Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing that those like the Cisco's of the Federation, that don't give into that fear, that push against it to remind people of the Federation values and what the Federation stands for. Like, and that's really was the turning point for what you were discussing on the captain who dated Jordy at some point
Mm-hmm.
about the fire on
Exactly.
about the fire on
Captain
war.
Leia Brahms.
Hey, don't add us, community. Look, we can't remember the exact name of her
Of her
of that
minor
officer.
character in this great episode. Yeah.
So
The name
don't.
of the ship she was commanding was the Lakota. Like I know the
It was
ship
the
name, I
Lakota.
just
You're
don't know
right.
her name.
But that was one of the main things that like brought her back
Mm-hmm.
to not give into the fear that there could that because what was told to her by the admiral was that ship had nothing but Dominion operatives and
Mm-hmm.
changelings on board, and they were coming to sector 001. And I'm
Yep.
pretty sure when they were in the throes of this battle, their ship scanned the Defiant and they could tell humans, Cleon, Betazoids, like all those races that were on there, but none came back any type of Dominion operative.
Yeah.
And then to put that along with now the admiral's telling you to fire upon this Federation ship and destroy it, and then you have Cisco pushing back against that. You know those people on there are not Dominion operatives. You would be firing upon your own citizens. You would be
Yeah.
destroying your own people. So
And
they would need to continue to have someone like that, strong leaders to push back against that fear.
exactly. And you know what? You highlighted another great point in there. She didn't fall into the Nuremberg defense. She was not just following orders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She stopped following orders
Mm-hmm.
when she realized it was the absolute wrong thing to do.
We have Our society is way too driven on we were just following orders. A lot of times something is wrong. You need to stand up against that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tell, I'm very passionate about that.
See
Very.
our episode about Ad Astra per Aspera back in this last season of Strange New Worlds, and you can catch all of that along with Dante's brother played into as well. We are definitely about the higher good here.
Sometimes it just comes down to you have to make the right decision, and you know what the right decision is. And history, there's a lot of history that shows those people that were just following orders showed where they were once history was completely written.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Well said. Well said.
and that's the same thing that needs to happen in our current situation within America. Is that
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be people, I'm talking about the Republicans, that need to do their freaking jobs and stop just following orders. Because they know, I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of them know. A lot of them. Maybe not one particular person, which I don't want to say her name. Uh, you know who I'm talking about, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes. She
but
will not be platformed here.
I'm quite sure there's a number of Republicans that know within their gut, within their stomach, within their feelings, like that this is not right.
I will platform two of them. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune. They are not defending the institution of Congress because the occupant of the White House is in their same party.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to roll over and watching him take powers away from the Congress, which helps protect America from
Mm-hmm. Having a
authoritarianism
dictator.
and fascism, from having a dictator. And they're just letting it happen because they voted for him and they happen
Mm-hmm.
to agree with him.
And
And
on one aspect of it, I get it. Yes, there are people within that group of voters that are very maniacal and will do things crazy like what happened on January 6th
mm-hmm,
to harm probably them or their family or someone else that they love. Like I get that, but also at the same time, is this the right thing to do? You're seeing the destruction of your country.
yeah. And egg prices haven't dropped a bit.
Oh, they've gone up.
Yeah, they've gone up.
You want to know the funny thing about egg prices? By the way, I want
Uh-huh.
to touch on this only because I thought about this today. Um, my wife isn't home. Um, for all y'all that didn't know, I'm married, of course. Um,
And
she's
for all you who don't know that are uh, single ladies, I am single, just in case.
my wife traveled with her mom and nephew to go see other family, so she's out of town right now. So we have two wonderful little dogs. You'll probably hear them bark at some point during this broadcast. So she normally feeds them in the morning, and then uh, either I feed them at night, or if I'm not home yet, she'll feed them at night. So when I woke up this morning to feed the dogs, normally we try to over the weekend we don't try to just give them kibble. We try to give them like something else to make take away the monotony of just like kibble kibble every time. I was like, oh, let me cook some eggs for them because that's normally what we did in the past. We would cook egg for them over the weekend. Now,
Mm.
I had to look at that this morning like, hold on, wait.
Mm.
That's almost like $2 an egg. Their
It's like,
dog food
sorry.
is cheaper than eggs. That's the crazy thing. Where eggs used to be like a carton, full carton, like $2, maybe $3. Now you're looking at like 10, 12, 14, almost $18 a carton of eggs, which is very expensive. But like, I just wanted to point that out. I thought that that was funny when I was thinking about it. Like, man, this is expensive. Like, when did that happen? Anywho,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, that was something that wasn't changed, but that was also a fear that was played on during the election.
Yeah.
I can bring down
100%.
your grocery prices when the people who know how the government work, i.e., me and yourself, like that's not how the government works. He can't just
It's not
like
something a president can just do.
exactly. He
No,
can't just like wave a magic wand or just snap his fingers and then all of a sudden like grocery prices go back down. No, it doesn't work like that.
not at all. Um, but yeah, well, but this part was about like why the Federation can preserve it, and you have pointed out the biggest factor: our ability to not let fear control us, our leaders' ability to act on the fact that fear can control us,
Mm-hmm.
and to keep fighting is exactly what you do to keep from having a fascist government come into
Mm-hmm.
power. The minute we all start rolling over, the minute we start thinking some of their more fascist points has a point
Or
or
just
whatever.
or oh, it's just is what it is. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Cisco's dad in the episode. Once you get used to the blood test, that's it.
Yeah,
Like they're not gonna kick in the door and start holding guns to your head. They're waiting for you to just say, okay, this is the honestly like the little dog meme. This is fine. this
this is fine.
is that's what they're waiting for you to do. That is the ultimate guard that the Federation has against fascism, and it's our ultimate guard too. To be like, this is not
This
fine.
is not fine.
This is not what I wanted. This is not freedom.
And for those to that did vote for him to fully wake up and fully combat the fact that this is not what you all thought you voted for. I
And I actually,
I would say thought you voted for because there's a number of us that feel, myself included, that you know exactly what you voted for. But
that's why I'm about to. I'm gonna put a little asterisk on what you just said. I honestly need just about a third of them, just a third,
yeah,
just a
yeah,
third of that. Like in the United States, it's just a third. Like I'd love to have them all, but hey, not everybody's gonna make it to the throne of grace. Okay, so I just need a third of them to be like, hey, this is not it, and that can be enough. That can surely be enough. Like we're in the United States, and we allow people to say what they want,
exactly.
and the government doesn't control speech. So there will always be people who are allowed to engage in all sorts of speech. Um, the
Yeah,
ones who are making their points on deeply different issues and like the fascism for other reasons than like some people that may have voted for it. Um, I'm not trying to reach them. That third that's over there, those are the people that I'm talking to.
Patrick is being very gracious with his wording right here. Uh, I'm just gonna flat out say it. The racists we don't care about.
Well, who knows? I might want to run for office one day. You know, I don't know. I don't know where my life is going. I
Well,
don't know them digging this up and being like,
and if you do, I'll be your interpreter.
"You'll be right there." Thank you, thank you. Shout out to Key and Peele.
But I personally, like as you were saying it, I was smiling because I was like, man, you said you called racist not a racist, but actually a racist with your word.
You can't reach everybody. That's all I'm saying. Some
but I,
people are gonna think what they're gonna think.
but I agree with that. Like there are those who think with that particular mindset that it is extremely difficult for them to change that mindset to see a different point of view or to
Yep.
see how their particular way of looking at uh, particular situations such as race as being the wrong way of
Yeah.
looking at things.
And it
So,
and it plays into that fear, what you were talking about, which
mm-hmm,
is whatever. That's why if Paradise Lost and Paradise Lost, jeez, what is going on, Patrick? Paradise Lost and Homefront were like a 8 episode arc as opposed to like just 2 episodes. I think you would have seen like
oh,
it
you
pop
could,
up on
ooh,
multiple issues and multiple
yeah,
fronts.
you could
Like,
dive really deep into that.
yeah, yeah,
It would be great to see a Star Trek series that leaned heavily into that.
yeah.
I know people will say, well, you know, Deep Space Nine, but I mean, yeah, but like yeah, they one of the great things that I love about Deep Space Nine is that they touched on the darker side of the Federation and how um, there are slippery slopes that even the greatest of captains, such as Cisco, uh, can do within a wartime situation
Yeah.
that wouldn't be Federation like.
The fact that he can just hop on a ship and fly off to the next episode
Mm-hmm.
really added depth to that series, which
Mm-hmm.
was really good.
But I feel like we touched on the Federation enough. I feel we need to go into the other
Before we do
races.
that, can we?
I was just
Can,
about to say you want to pause for a moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Not the. So this is where you cut. All right, cut. Yeah, not for the calling my parents bit, but I just need to run to the restroom real quick, and then we can do the other races.
Okay, so all right, so we're going to take a beat right now, and come back, and we're going to discuss more of the other races within Star Trek and if they could be considered fascist. So we'll be right back. All right, explorers, we are back for the second half of this topic of fascism in Star Trek. So, we already talked about could the Federation be fascist? We determined that yes, it's a possibility. A lot of things will have to occur. Certain situations will have to carry themselves out, and there will have to be people that allow it to happen. So now that we've touched on the Federation, let's look at the other races within Star Trek and determine could their government be considered fascist? Now, now, Patrick, I know you really want us to start with the Klingons on this one. I,
Mm-hmm.
I know you do, and I agree. That is a very good race to start with. However,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a different race.
Okay.
I want to start with the race that I feel probably mimics um, America how it is today more so than other races.
I'm already laughing. I feel like I know what you're gonna say.
And that's the Ferengi. We gonna start with the Ferengi. I kind of figured you would like that. I kind of figured you would like that.
Yep. Yep.
So
Well done. Well done.
so Trekkies, we know who the Ferengi are.
Mm-hmm.
Now my memory escapes me with the original Star Trek, and we've pointed out that our knowledge of the original Star Trek is very small because we haven't rewatched those. We watched them when we were younger,
Haven't. Yeah. I mean, maybe I saw all of the episodes when I was younger. I
and
mean,
I was so young when with my dad watching those episodes. I can't remember a great deal of them, to be
I
honest with
don't
you.
think the Ferengi were in TOS. I thought
I
they
don't
were a
think they were
specific
either.
TNG enemy. Like they were supposed to be like the new Klingons level, like how Klingons were in TOS. They were
Hmm.
supposed to be that in TNG, and it like I don't think it phased. I don't think it worked out since that like laser whip episode that they did.
Yes, which was the first time that they introduced the Ferengi into the Star Trek pantheon. Um,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, granted, like it could have. Please, those that are watching this,
Well, canonically speaking, they took over the NX-01 during an episode of Enterprise.
we're
Sorry, I don't mean
going,
to make fun of anyone.
we're going in order of when they were introduced.
And Captain
So
Archer just didn't recognize them because they weren't in the Vulcan database.
exactly. Oh God, I feel that could be a comment, but anywho,
Yeah, I beat him to it. I'm sorry. If you were
so
typing that as you were hearing this somehow, I
so
said it for you. You don't have to type it now.
so they were introduced in the Next Generation as bringing this saying back up the new hotness for Star Trek. They were supposed to be supposed to be considered the main villain, but then they realized as episodes went on that they actually created a comical race more so. So
Mm-hmm.
they backtracked on that to focus more on the Romulans
Oddly
being
enough, this is a Resurgence background, right?
uh huh.
Like they were the enemies in the episode where we discover the race that's behind this whole story in Resurgence. Remember?
You talking about the game?
Yeah, yeah. Like the oh man, I
I thought it was
again
the
the
was it Tholians. I thought it was
no, this isn't the Tholians. This is the what was their names? Because Riker goes down to the planet. He quotes the Art of War.
the dude, yeah, with
Um,
the dude with the sword.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Hmm.
Um, which I can't think of the race name off the top
Yeah,
of my head
who
too.
were they?
Um,
We played
yes,
this
you're
whole
right.
game. People can see it on your channel, and we say their name over and over again. I cannot remember who they are.
You're right. You're right. That's when they were also introduced as well.
Yeah.
Um, but like focusing on the Ferengi and their government and how they work. It's to my knowledge that it's not a democratic nation. The successor, well, the head is the oh, wow, I can't think of it right now.
The Grand
The
Nagus.
Grand Nagus, yes, yes, the
Because
Grand.
if anyone listens to Dork Trek, which is a podcast that unceremoniously stopped because they got to Voyager, they were reviewing like every episode. They got to Voyager, and they're like, they just stopped recording
That's
after
hilarious.
a few episodes into it.
That is
But they
hilarious.
had an episode where they were like, "Why is Nagus so close to the N word? Like, why?"
Oh, it is. You know, it is
It's
borderline. If you
dangerously
say this
close.
the wrong way, you could be saying a racial slur. Yes.
If
Yeah.
you're like, "That's my Nagus," right? You said Nagus, but what did you say when you said that? I'm searching for deeper meanings. If you say that,
Oh, why have I not thought about that until today?
yeah, Dork Trek. If you haven't listened to that podcast, it's irreverent, hilarious, vulgar, but
I, I think I need to listen to that.
I
I
do
needed
like it.
something else to listen to while I was at work that can play in the background.
Yes,
I think I might start that.
start at the beginning. The original one of the podcast was like from 2016 to
Hmm.
maybe like 2023 or
Okay.
something like that.
So
But
not too far
yeah,
back. Yeah.
they get through TNG and they get through Deep Space Nine, and they were going to do Voyager next, and they got like 4 episodes into Voyager, and I've never seen a new episode from them since.
Um,
They never did like a series finale or anything. They were just like they just stopped. So
I'm,
maybe they'll come back one day, but I don't know.
it's funny that it just tapered off with Voyager, but also at the same time, like we said at the beginning of this episode,
I
life be
get it.
life, and like
Yeah, and none of them are full time, so they got
yeah,
kids, wives, yeah, all that stuff, and yeah, like, and I'm sure, yeah, okay, well, I mean, maybe this is extra canon for them, but based on the way they talk, I'm sure they're like still friends that like talk to each other, but they just probably like
I'm
don't
sure,
make the time to make a podcast to.
I'm
Because if
sure.
they're like us, you record for like 3 hours and then you put like an hour and a half up, right? So
What are you talking about? I'm putting this whole thing up, even all the crazy stuff that you said. Anywho,
can you at least cut out the part where I was like, before the break? Just cut that part out and then put
I'll
the whole
cut
thing up.
that
It's fine.
part. Okay, I'll cut that part. Hey, now I got to take time tomorrow just to cut that slice out. Darn
Just
you,
a little
Patrick.
bit. Just a little bit.
And so 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 from what I can remember, and of course you can always correct me if I'm wrong. They're not democratic. The Negus is not democratic elected. Actually, from what it seems like, it looks like the Negus successor can be chosen by the uh, current Negus. Or
Yeah.
if that Negus was to pass away before choosing said successor, that's when like this craziness tends to occur with some type of who's going to be the next Negus. Because I think Deep Space Nine touched on that a bit in one of the episodes that something like that
Yeah.
occurred.
Because Brunt wants to be the Negus at
Yeah,
some point,
yeah.
and he's like angling to do that, but
He's got to bribe like everybody, the main
he's got a
people,
brother.
the
I
main
can't remember
players.
like yeah, I can't remember like Quark was important to that. It was either his mom or the fact that he owned a bar by the wormhole made it important
Because
for Brunt to make him an enemy
that was
at
at the
some point.
time where remember this was before the full Dominion War kicked off, and the Negus was trying to extend uh, their commerce into the Gamma Quadrant, and
There you go.
he made
Yeah,
Quark the head of that.
yeah. Well, an extra step, and we'll get to this with the Klingons whenever you bring it up. An extra step is not just the fact that he's not democratically elected, and there seems to be some amount of a very low number of people, a very few number of people selecting who gets to pick the next Grand Nagus.
Hmm.
Um, but also, they are actively saying everyone in their lives needs to be about profit.
Yes, yes, but uh,
Like, if
the
you don't want to be about profit, you're like a weirdo, you're an outcast. Like,
And
you
their
can't be free.
planet's form of a constitution is based off of that. Like with
Yeah.
the rules of acquisition.
And I think they lightly, if not directly, say like their religion on that planet as well is pointing towards. Because I think Quark like
Yes, because the
talks about the afterlife
yeah, when you die, you go to
for
the divine treasury where you have to bid for
yeah,
your life. Yes,
yeah. Well, I mean, not a Christian thought, obviously, but yeah.
I
So they
said
have.
it was closely based on our society, not
No, no.
completely
I
based
honestly,
on.
some of these Christians in the United States, I think,
Yeah, you might be right.
any
Yeah.
any whoozle. I'm not a minister. I'm not a pastor. I'm not
This
gonna say
and
anything like that. I'm not
before
saying
y'all even
nothing.
come at us, I am wholeheartedly Christian, wholeheartedly.
Yeah, me too.
But I also believe that everybody has a choice within their life, and well, heck, the Bible states that He gave everyone free will. So
Says it pretty directly. Can't really miss it. But anywho, if you're on Ferenginar, you're under the gentle reins of Ferenginar before we end up preaching on this Sunday.
you know,
You know, before we end up preaching, if you're on Ferenginar, the profit motive has taken over what you should do with your life, who you believe in religion, the roles of women in the
oh,
society.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all towards a grand negus who decides who makes what profit where, and the politics branches out from there. So yeah, the it's not militaristically fascist as we typically understand fascism here on Earth,
Hmm.
but it is a fascist society for sure.
I would have to agree. It definitely is a fascist society, especially when you touched on the fact that not both sexes don't have complete rights because the women that's a good. I like how you touched on that, uh, like because it shows how this society based specifically off of profit. Everything is profit driven. Everything within their society is profit driven, and how women are not allowed to even try to gain profit, and if they did, then it's considered a huge issue. Their rendition of the IRS comes looking for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Brunt,
yeah, bruh,
FCA.
FCA. And the women, from what I could tell, the women have zero rights. They, in the presence of other men, they can't be clothed. They have to be completely naked.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, they can't even. Are they really even supposed to be out in public as much? Because at least from how I saw it, it seemed like that they were only supposed to really be in the house, and if they were outside the house, they were supposed to be accompanied by their their male and supposed to be completely naked, which is crazy, of course, thinking about it within our
Yeah.
societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you can definitely say that, like you said, not necessarily a military uh, fascism state, but definitely
Definitely
some type of fascist.
like an economic fascism, like
I
a
guess you could
capitalist
say,
fascism, I
yeah, a
suppose.
capitalistic fascism, which I'm pretty sure there would be a lot of people that's upset that we use that word to describe something
Sorry.
so immoral. But
And also, if you're offended by that, every economy is a mixed economy, has mixed elements of the things you hate and the things you love in terms of what you think economic thought is. America is very much a mixed economy and
yeah,
has been from the beginning.
I mean,
And so are all the economies across the world. So don't get offended by capitalism because you don't have pure capitalism anywhere on earth.
exactly. And going back to our definition that we read at the beginning of what fascism is, a populist political philosophy, the how they the rules of acquisition, how they talk about everything being profit driven. That is their political society. Um, so a populist political philosophy movement or regime, all that tracks that
Mm-hmm.
exalts nation and often race above the individual. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
that also tracks, especially with the sexism there. Uh, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader. We just
Mm-hmm.
pointed that out with the Negus, not not appointed by the people, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition.
Boom. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Every
Every
time
which way and kind.
every time they talked about something that went against that status quo, for instance, the episode in Deep Space Nine when not Nog,
Well,
uh,
not joining Starfleet was a big thing.
Nog joining Starfleet was a huge thing, but Quark's brother,
Rom.
Rom, yes, where Rom tried to set up a labor union,
Mm-hmm.
and how that was like a huge big deal, almost to the point where they did some mob style stuff to Quark just to get Rom to back off. Like they really beat up Quark in that episode. If you go
Yep.
back and watch it.
Yep. Yep. And Rom's ascension to Grand Nagus is
Mm-hmm.
marked as like a big point of progress for the Ferengis, right? Like, oh,
But not
they're
only that, even then, when Quark was talking to um, what's his FCA
brunt.
Brunt at the very end of Deep Space Nine and talking about how the society has changed, they were bringing up all the things that we adore now, which would be considered more socialist policies, and
Mm-hmm.
how those have changed so much. And here Quark was like, oh no, we're changing this right back to the way it was. But even even why I keep forgetting his name. What you keep telling me saying
Brunt.
it to I don't know why I keep forgetting his darn name. Bront. Jesus. Bront.
It's because
uh,
he turned 40. The
and
memory has already just
pretty much.
started
Uh,
not working.
and Bront was even talking about how these policies have become very well liked within a society, and it could be extremely difficult to get them changed back.
Yeah.
Just say, I just wanted to point that out for those that think socialism is terrible. You know,
It's it's the fear of everyone who isn't for those types of policies. Republicans.
going back to what we said before.
Yeah.
There,
That once
you can't even say just Republicans. There are some Democrats that are fearful of it too.
there are some that's true. That once these policies are in and people see how it works for them and see how it gives them more choice in life and
Mm-hmm.
more freedom in life, that they can't take it away. And it's why Social Security, Medicare, and Obamacare are like third rail of politics right now because they're going to go for them here
Mm-hmm.
pretty soon. And maybe they achieve some cuts, maybe they don't. They're not going to get everything that they want because every time they go for them to try to take it back, it's like, no.
And for those who are ignorant to this, Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act.
Sorry, yes, the
It is
Affordable Care Act. If you're triggered by Obamacare, it's the Affordable Care Act.
it is
If
the
you went on the
exact same
internet
thing.
If you went on the internet and bought your health insurance through healthcare.gov on an exchange, it's the Affordable Care Act,
Slash
and they're
Obamacare.
trying to take it away. slash Obamacare. And the subsidies for Obamacare slash Affordable Care Act are up at the end of this year, and your Republican representatives are not planning to renew those subsidies.
I'm
Your
quite
health
sure
insurance
they're not
premiums,
going to.
your health insurance premiums are about to go up.
Yeah,
So you're going to decide to live with higher health insurance premiums, or you can fight it now on our side. But
exactly.
anywho's will be.
So
I'm going to climb off the soapbox now. We're talking about the other races. Sorry.
Ferengi. So we're going to put them into the fascist category. All right,
And
and then at the end of Deep Space Nine, turning into uh, um, a democratic,
a slight,
somewhat, yeah.
because I don't think the Nagus is a elected position at that point.
Yeah,
So
it still isn't.
yeah,
It still isn't. But you could argue that Rom was like their FDR.
you can argue that. And I think even in Lower Decks, they kind of mentioned some of the stuff he did after Deep Space Nine,
Mm-hmm.
heading in that direction. But yeah, he's the Ferengi are a very capitalistic version of fascism where honestly, what we probably should, and I think that's why you started off with this, should fear here, where it's not going to be jackbooted thugs
Mm-hmm.
burning books in the streets
Mm-hmm.
and putting guns at your head. It's going to be the fact that, as President Truman actually called it, the fact that we're going to be resigned to a Wall Street
Mm-hmm.
economic dictatorship.
Everything's driven by profit motive right now.
Hmm.
At least as I see it in America. Don't know how other people may see it, but that's how I see it. Which is
Yeah,
why I wanted to start with the Ferengi.
and it was a
Now,
good start. Not only did you give me the laugh that you promised, because immediately when you said something, I can't remember what you said that triggered it, but I was like, I know exactly what he's doing, and it's hilarious that we're starting here. But he's right. You're right.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna start with this race, and I know it's gonna throw Patrick for a nice little loop, and I at least wanted to
Hmm.
get that. I didn't want to tell you that in the planning stages of talking about this episode. I wanted that to be a surprise.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I
I'll try to
liked it.
have more of those later in other
Awesome.
episodes. So okay, so now on to the Cleons. All right, so we've already
Hmm.
established Federation, not fascist. Ferengi, fascist. Where do the Cleons lie?
I think that there are allies. There are
They
allies.
are. They are.
They are fascist.
Okay. Continue.
Uh, so they wouldn't be fascist. I will take a quick step back. They wouldn't be fascist, but for the fact that multiple times during Star Trek, it has been established that there are different Klingons than the ones that participate in the warrior class. And the warrior class is what has taken over and represents their
Mm-hmm.
interests throughout the galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
the quadrant,
Okay. Okay.
and things like that. And it seems like being less than warrior class is a big problem.
Ooh, and it centers around their religion too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah. So the fact that the warrior class can wall religion, seemingly economics, and upward mobility in their society off from anyone else who's in the artist class
Mm-hmm.
or any other class of Klingon, a farmer class. Actually, they just did that in Lower Decks. I
How
haven't finished this last season of Lower Decks yet, but there was a
I
farmer
haven't either.
Klingon that is considered less than. Leads me
However,
to believe,
the monks are very very revered, even though they're not considered warriors. They are really revered in the Klingon Empire.
yeah, that's true. But if you're down there and this monk is like, hey, if you break this time crystal, your fate is sealed throughout the entire multiverse.
Well,
I'd probably get back in my spaceship and leave too, right?
well, it's not just the monks in the time crystal that's over the time crystal. Also, the monks that's over the Kalis I call it the Kalis retreats, but it's a monastery that they're in that's devoted to Kalis. Uh, it, it
Come to the
it
Kalis
it
retreat.
really is a
We'll only
Kalis
spend
retreat.
like 4 hours on a timeshare.
And
Jeez.
pain sticks are involved.
Ooh. Yeah, the warrior class has taken over their government, has taken over their culture, has taken over their religion,
Hmm. The
and the
chancellor,
only
though, the chancellor, though, is okay. That's the part of the only area that's like different, especially from the Ferengi, because the chancellor isn't chosen, and there is a Klingon council, but the council doesn't necessarily choose them. It goes off of who's the strongest house, or who was the leader of the house that, or no, who was the person that killed the previous chancellor too.
well, but isn't that very Game of Thrones? Like, doesn't that perpetuate the warrior class? Like, you want the strongest warriors associated with your house so that you can get to be chancellor?
Yeah, you're right. But mm,
Like, it's not democracy.
it definitely isn't. It's
Gallon is not visiting battleground planets in the Klingon Empire, right? Like,
but also at the
he's
same time, whoever's chancellor, it doesn't necessarily show that he has like dictatorial powers. Like, yeah, he can control the military because he's pretty much the head military person, which is like how our president is.
mm-hmm.
But the council also has a say in the direction of how the Klingon Empire goes as well. They showed that a few times within D Space Nine and TNG.
They do, but everything is, and I love the episodes, The Way of the Warrior, and
Oh, great
uh,
episode!
yeah,
Great episode.
and also the Book of Five Rings by Musashi Miyamoto. The Way of the Warrior is a
Hmm.
great book as well. Everything in that society is the way of the warrior. So maybe it's a weird kind of fascism that it's just like everyone agreed that being a warrior is the best, and maybe that's a weird form of democratic fascism. But
I mean,
but it is fascism
to your
because
point, it can be like because it's more militaristic fascism. See, this is how they lead towards the warrior race. Because, like, everything
yeah,
that is based off of them being strong warriors is permeated throughout their whole society. Like, I will definitely agree with that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
really, it wasn't until they really got um, really close with the Federation that their empire had started kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily changing, but like amending certain aspects of their government that seemed more democratic and less fascist.
yeah. Well, I mean, even during the TNG series, the Klingons start hitting the edge of their ability to spread their empire.
Yeah.
And once your whole thing is being imperialistic and a warrior class and the best warrior from the best warrior house is what runs your government and you can't go anywhere else, like you have to start wondering, well, what else is there?
Yeah, because
What else is in
how do
this
you
book?
determine
Art?
who is the best warrior if there's no wars?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Then
yeah.
they're like
So I get
kind
it.
of facing a monarchy situation.
Okay, so I was going to be on the other side, but you make some very good points. You make some really good points, and I will have to go with that. The Klingon Empire are fascists.
Hey,
I
next question. What does it say about the Federation to ally themselves with fascists? What does it
I
say
but
about the United States to ally themselves with fascists? Because
but
Stalin was a fascist.
I was about to
So,
say,
you know.
but like World War I, World War II, like so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we align ourselves with who who the direction that we want the world to go into at that moment.
Right.
And at that moment, especially in World War II, we did not want to be on the wrong side. Uh, Granted, World War III could probably be a different story, and that makes me sad now
Lord
that I'm
willing, that
thinking
won't
about it.
happen. Stop
Let's.
putting that out there.
I'm it's hard not to think about that, Patrick.
Why? Because someone with a spray tan and a terrible tattoo said it in the Oval Office the other day
uh,
when talking to
even
the president of a
before,
country in a hotbed.
even before that person with the low IQ who just so happens to be running our country said that, um, I was still thinking that because as a history buff, I know how World War One and World War Two popped off, and there are certain aspects of both wars that seem uh, very reminiscent of things that is occurring right now. So that's one of the things that's scary. Granted, like that could be me way over analyzing things, which I do have a
No,
tendency to
no.
do.
You got to listen to yourself when you notice these things.
So it's hard not to think that way. It's really hard not to think that way, but I hope it doesn't. Anywho, so
But third time's a charm, right? Like first time a world war popped off, second time, fourth, third time.
you can't say that while I'm like mid sip of my drink. Wow.
I'm just
Third time's
I'm
the
just here to
charm of
spread
a
hope.
world war. Yes. Yes. Third time's the charm. No. No.
Maybe this is the time it won't happen. That's all I'm trying to say.
Christ. Oh. All right.
Yeah, call them when
So,
you need them.
Federation, not fascist. Uh, Cleon's fascist. Ferengi fascist. All right. Even though I feel like we're both going to lead the same way on this one, I have to throw them out. The Romulans.
I have one more controversial one. If you
Ooh.
want to do that before the Romulans.
Okay. Let's do the Romulans real quick because I feel like that will be quick,
Okay.
and then we'll go into the
Uh,
controversial one.
uh, TLDR, yes.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they got the Tal Shiar, who is like everyone's afraid of, which is like I feel like the Russian equivalent of the Secret Service within their society that everyone's afraid of. Like, come on now, like
They very much made it seem like in TNG when they went to the Romulan homeworld that your only real choice was where you got to go for lunch. Like,
that
do
is
you want to go to
true.
the soup place or the sandwich place?
That is
Everything
true.
else
Everything
you
else
can
was.
fully expect to be in service to or spied on by the Empire.
And if you say even just one thing against the current regime, you were being taken to some gulag somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, and Sela tried to explain her mom's alternate universe Tasha Yar's approach
Mm-hmm.
to being a Romulan citizen, and she was like, "This isn't enough freedom. I'm gonna risk my life to get us out of here," and it didn't work out.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. So I don't have an argument against that would say that they're not. I can't even fathom any argument that
what it
would.
would be
Yeah, I can't.
in the sole defense of the argument against, not the Romulans, but the argument against. We also don't know
Mm-hmm.
what is going on in Romulan society. So they hide a bunch of it from us. So I don't
Well,
even think we know if
ooh,
they have money, you
ooh.
know. So
Even if we're looking at just their judicial system, like their judicial system, like you're guilty, like, and they said they have a 100%. Well, before that trial with Miles O'Brien and D Space Nine, they had like a 100% conviction rate.
okay, so I'm gonna take back what I just said. Let's edit that out and make sure that doesn't reach the unpopular explorers. Um, yes, they are 100% fascist. There's no way that they're not 100% fascist. And I really don't give a F what
That
anyone
that was the
says
crazy
against
thing
it.
about that episode. Like it's still one of my
You're 100%
favorites in
right.
there because it's like so what's the purpose of the trial? Oh, it's just for the spectacle of it. Like
It's because
what?
we should have one, right?
Yeah, it's like what's the point in even watching? Like, yeah, the person's guilty, regardless of whether they're innocent, regardless of whatever is brought to the attention of the court, they're guilty. Oh, that is a
Yeah, they're fascists. They're
that's a
fascists as all get
terrible
out.
society to live in. Oh my God,
Yeah.
like,
Also, before we leave the Romulans,
uh huh.
copy paste Cardassians. I I think the exact every point you
Oh
just made,
yeah.
every point I made, is the same point for them. We don't have to talk about them separately. It's the same thing.
And actually, you know
So,
what? Like, I feel like somebody's gonna hurt me on this. Actually, that episode with O'Brien was about the Kardashians. You're you're right, but also at the same
oh,
time,
was it? Oh,
yeah, it
okay,
was.
okay.
Now that you said that, oh my God! But I do also remember something to the effect of like they within their society they felt like there's no law there that that shows like that they're you're innocent when you're brought on trial. I don't think they ever did they ever have a trial that was like Romulan focused. I know they did one with
I don't think so.
Cleon focus.
The one dude that was gonna face that I remember that was gonna face criminal justice in the criminal justice system in the Romulan Star Empire was the dude who ended up on the Enterprise and was trying to be like they're building up forces on some planet that I can't remember the name of, and
Oh,
honestly won't ever remember the name of.
the senator that defected. It was either senator
Yeah,
or a higher level
I think he was like a
general.
higher general, admiral type person.
Yeah, that defected.
Yeah, and faced with the possibility of being in the Federation to live his life out and maybe not seeing his family again or trying to go back, and be in hiding or whatever, he just murked himself. Like he just so because this is going on YouTube, I'm going to
So,
say it this way: he unalived
he
himself.
unalived himself,
So
which is the same thing with the in D Space Nine, the gentleman that helped Kira when he thought that that was his daughter.
yes,
Um, Same thing with that situation, but it was always um, insinuated that there's no such thing as like a proven until innocent until proven guilty type situation with the Romans. However, we can't say for a fact that that's how their judicial system
yeah.
was. Which it please forgive me, Trekkies.
I was going to say I can't.
I crossed the two. That's on me.
Well, and also, yeah, I can't really remember. And I thought it was Romulans, what you were saying as well. But you're right. The
which is
Cardassians
which
have
is
a
funny.
100%.
That's funny that we both thought that that was Romulan.
Well, the Cardassians and the Romulans are so similar
They're so
that
similar. They're
yeah, I
interchangeable.
don't. Yeah, there's not been a Star Trek series versus the Romulan or a series or episode versus the Romulans that you could not have replaced with the Cardassians and it not felt and done. Like I guess the ones around the neutral zone would have been
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
like because there's not a neutral zone with the Cardassians, but I mean that's really the only difference.
I would agree. All right, so moving forward. So Romulans, fascists. Cardassians, fascists. All right. So what was the
Ferengi and
race?
Klingons fascists.
Yeah, Ferengi Cleon fascists. So we only got
Okay,
one right now that's in the non-fascist category.
I'm gonna call. I think this is gonna be controversial,
Okay.
um, and I know that we've been talking for a while, so we're probably close to the end. So I'm sure there are other freedom-loving races in the Federation that we have missed. I honestly would like to call the Vulcans down to the front.
See, okay. So I was thinking about naming Federation races, but the fact that they're part of Federation kind of kind of leans them more towards the non-fascist direction. But let's explore this. I like where this is going. Let's go this direction.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Make
So
your arguments, counselor.
so the Vulcans are part of the Federation, which means their status as a planet is
Mm-hmm.
not going to be part of a fascist government for the reasons that we named, but could fall to fascism for the reasons that we also talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like being on Vulcan could possibly feel like you're in a fascist society because of their commitment to logic and what they
Mm.
do to people who
Mm.
don't have the same commitment to logic.
Mm. Yeah.
It doesn't
Thinking of this,
feel like. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the Voyager episode where Tuvok, Paris, and the Doctor were trapped in the that kind of void realm, and they kept flashing back to Tuvok when he was younger, and he had uh, a, a lot of feelings for this particular
Mm-hmm.
female, and
Mm-hmm.
because of his show of emotion, his parents sent him to this pretty much. I mean, if I had to put it in uh, a situation that's kind of like our society would be like how people did about like uh, uh, those that were gay or not were, excuse me, those that are
Mm-hmm.
gay, like sending them to these camps to where like they were supposed to like pretty much get that out of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that I looked at that particular thing, which they try to make it look more wholesome, like, oh, it's a monastery and this is a monk that was trying to
Mm-hmm.
teach Tuvok how to suppress his emotions. So I could see where you're going at with that one.
Yeah. Well, and also there was an episode of Enterprise where I think Archer was brought into, and this is pre-Federation.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want them to come after me. I know it's pre-Federation on Enterprise, but they brought in Archer to chase down a sect of Vulcans that weren't following logic, um, and try to bring them back in the fold. Like the Vulcans had, canonically speaking, a big world war essentially where they use their like telepathic powers and all that stuff against each other because their emotions had, and they equate that to like their emotions getting out of control. And
Mm-hmm.
so the government's like, emotions can never get out of control. We're going to institute logic, but also by committing everyone to logic, it like promoted up the Vulcan Science Academy, um, and probably other institutions that are fictional, things like that. That is what you're supposed to be to Vulcan. And
Mm-hmm.
even if a Vulcan mixes with another race, it's a big controversy, even in Kirk's
Oh, it
era,
is.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Spock's
So
mom.
I'm kind of, yeah. So I'm kind of like the Vulcans are Earth's like spiritual allies, right?
But
like
but also at
like
the same
like
time, like okay, let's explore the whole thing that about Spock's mom. Like here you have a Vulcan senator uh, that that ended up getting married to a human, someone outside of his race, and that was looked down upon within the society. But it he wasn't like put on trial for it. He wasn't like shunned from the society for it. Like it was just looked down like uh it was just looked down like how we would view well I
yeah.
wouldn't
Where
say
are you going with this?
let's not say we because
Where are
actually
you going? Where are you going?
interracial marriage like I let me not say that like
Where are we going?
it
It's
would
like
be
you were
how
driving the car for a moment, and I saw us starting to head to a pole, and I'm like, hey,
Like,
man,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
this is not where we should be.
No, it
I
would
need
be
to
like
swerve
how
back onto the road.
it would be like how some people view interracial marriage within like other society, like certain societies. Like you have um, certain races within the human race that don't like marrying outside their particular race, and it's like it's shunned upon, with but not necessarily like. Well, at one point in time in history, yeah, you could have died for it, but like at this point in certain societies, no, you can't. It's just people just look like ugh. But that's the way that I saw the whole Vulcan thing, that they were trying to show like, oh yeah, there's
Yeah,
still some prejudice there. They're not perfect. They're not perfect, but there's still some prejudice there when it comes to
yeah.
other
By
races.
by being a founding member and inside the Federation, we kind of just accept it as like, oh, it's like they're from a different culture, a different country, or something like that.
Yeah, like
But but at the same time, that works until there are people who are trying to actively change it, right? Which we've seen in Star Trek, where people like Cybok, right? Like people who are actively trying to break from the system of
mm,
logic and suppression of emotions and things like that. And what we do for them is we call a Starfleet ship to track them down and shoot them and throw them in the brig, right?
yeah, but that was
Like,
also pre before uh, their full. So that was pre TNG. Well, actually, no, pre original Star Trek. If we're looking at Enterprise, so that was before the Vulcan
well,
people.
Cybok would be
Was Sabak?
one of the movies.
Oh, that's right. Sabak was what? Star Trek 5.
Uh, yeah, yeah, five. Why does Guy need a spaceship? Yeah, five.
Yeah, yeah, 5. So, um, yeah, yeah. I think in every society, regardless of whether it's perfect or not, you're always going to have dissenters, people that feel a
Mm-hmm.
totally different way. Um, heck, we pointed that out a lot in the Federation. But I also feel like it's funny with the Vulcans how I feel like that's kind of different. Like, yeah, they have their own prejudices. Like we just determined that with the whole dating outside the race thing. But also at the same time, um, their society doesn't show a lot of the fascist points, in my opinion. And you definitely could have like a totally different opinion on this, and
No,
go
go
ahead and
ahead.
point that out.
What's the? Well, I mean, that's why I'm calling them to the front because I'm like, let's talk about it.
Uh,
Right?
you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, let's go back to the definition.
Okay.
Because that's where our baseline is for this whole conversation that we had today was the definition of fascism.
Mm-hmm.
So, dang, as I'm reading this first sentence, you might have a little bit of a point. So, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader. Ugh.
It like only trails off at the end because I think the Vulcans have only had elected officials.
I believe so too. I don't know that
Yeah.
for a fact, for a pure fact, but I do believe that they had elected officials. But that way of thinking does permeate throughout their whole society. But also at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, what I wanted to point on was the fact that they look at how destructive their society was when feelings was a big deal there. So that's why, because of how
Mm-hmm.
strong their and then their psychic powers are as well, That's why
Yeah, because
they
they had the thing that like even made it stronger in that
exactly in
TNG
that TNG
episode,
episode.
the
So
two-parter. Yeah,
that's why they went the direction of suppressing the emotions because it's not that Vulcans don't have emotion. That is false. They do have emotion. They have them, and Spock and Tuvok even said this. They have emotion. It's just their emotion is way stronger than most other species. That's why they. That's why they go through the Kolinar and like do a suppression of their
yeah,
emotions to pretty much keep it in check. It's not that they can't suppress. It's not that they can't express said emotion. They can, and certain Vulcans have, but they suppress it to not get to that point where they go overboard and they have a situation like their society was in the past.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But do they go to fascist means? And maybe this
That's
is like a broader point
that's part where you have me.
that yeah, maybe that's a broader point where it's like it's not so much the tactics that you use, but the judgment and values around the tactics
Yeah, because
to a certain extent.
this is considered how you act like a Vulcan, and to act differently from that, everybody looks at you like you're not Vulcan, like you're
Yeah,
pariah,
yeah.
which is one of the things that
So
Spock had to contend with throughout his life.
yeah, but man, you've worked against the argument enough to the point where I'm like, Michael Burnham, Spock, and probably some other folks we've come across in there might be like, it's not really fascist, but they have such a strong individualistic identity that's linked up to what the state is reinforcing.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like, could I call it fascist if I wanted to? Maybe, maybe not.
You know, as you're saying that, I do think about the Strange New World episode where Spock, you know, Spock's getting married for
To
some reason
Pring,
to Pring. I wanted to say to Paul for some reason to Pring, and
because they're both attractive.
they are very
Sorry,
attractive.
actresses.
Um, Very
Y'all are both
beautiful
fine.
actress that played those characters. Um, they when he had to like pretty much get his get her parents to be on board with the marriage, and
Mm. And
because
Captain Pike
Spock
helped out with it. Yeah.
exactly, and because Spock is not your traditional Vulcan, because he's half Vulcan, because he does have signs of showing emotion, they it was much difficult for them to see him as a true Vulcan to get married to T'Pring.
This is going to be splitting hairs. So you might even cut this whole Vulcan conversation out of the episode when you
I
listen to
doubt
it.
it.
But maybe, maybe the Vulcans aren't fascist. Maybe they're just racist.
You know what? Both can be true, but
Oh yeah, they're good with freedom. They're good with interracial marriage. They let you do what you want in your life, but man, we're gonna be racist about it.
oh my god, that
The
might be
more
the
we talk
conclusion
about it,
there. That might be the conclusion.
yeah, they're not fascist. They're just racist.
They're not fascist. They're just racist. Okay, all right. So
somehow, somehow they haven't determined that racism isn't logical, so they're just running with it.
wow, wow. I think that's
Well,
the
I mean,
conclusion there.
yeah, I think that's the. But honestly, that's what the Vulcans are in all of Starfleet, right? They're there to be a, uh, I guess, friendly but antagonistic force against what we generally want to have to be freedoms and equal justice and things like that in the Federation. Like, so I guess maybe just by their presence being in there, like that's what they're supposed to be. So
Yeah, I've always looked at the Vulcans as that logical standpoint, like for like in our society, like how you have most people that think more with logic, most people that think more with their feelings, and how um, what they were basically trying to say was leaning too much into one direction can be destructive for your society. You have to be
yeah,
willing to bend to lean also in the other direction to at least understand how that other side is. So the Vulcans that tend to lead way too much into logic and not into motion or feeling, they tend to they tend to be represented as like being more destructive or more of an antagonist in episodes.
yep,
And
yep,
then those like Spock, like Tuvok, that have the tendency to understand the feeling side and be able to understand uh, other races and why they think more with emotion and not purely with logic. They seem to be more grounded and more of
yep.
the person that you really would want to be.
Well, as always, the Vulcans have somehow fought their way into a special place in our hearts.
Sure, sure.
Uh, but yeah, I'm glad we talked it out because when we started the other races conversation and you started going through them, I was like, where are the Vulcans in this? Like, but yeah, you're right. They're not exactly fascist. They're kind of racist.
And like you said, I'm glad you pointed us towards that. But I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to discuss the races within the Federation. Um, at least, let's say the races within the Federation from the standpoint of TNG, D Space Nine Voyager. Um,
Well, by the time you get to Discovery, they're Navarre and they've united with the Romulans, and it's popular democratic elections, which I think they've always had. Um, but actually, it's still a problem for whatever her name is, that is the president of Navarre, who's a Vulcan, to marry, oh God, Doug Jones' character.
yeah.
Please help me.
Um,
What's his name? Saru. There we go. It's still
Saru.
a big
Yeah. I don't know
problem for
why.
him to,
I don't know why I blanked as
for,
well. Um,
yeah, for her to marry Saru. They actually had an episode on that. So even after unification with the Romulans, there's still some type of
so
issue with her.
and so like that goes back to what we said. So they're not fascists, but they're racist.
They appear to be racist.
which is a,
I
which
don't
is
know
a
what to do with that
strange
information
conclusion
now.
to get
Yeah, that
to.
is. Well, it's Strange Trek here on
Oh, it is Strange Trek. It
the.
is Strange Trek. We are staying true to the title of the series. That is definitely strange. So we have Federation, Vulcan, not fascist, even though the Vulcans are probably racist. Uh, and we
More
have
racist than you'd want them to be.
more than what you want them to be. Ferengi, Cleons, Romulans, Cardassians, fascists. Um,
Yeah.
and even to that sense, Bajorans, not fascists.
Well, they're kind of like the Vatican. Like they got a lot going on with their.
It's funny how the Bajorans were portrayed because I feel like it was a number uh, of our earthly society races that was put into this one race.
I'm gonna do you a favor right now because we've been recording for a while. I think we got to table the Bajorans for another day.
we'll put that as a we'll put that as a topic for specifically just for the
coming
Bajorans because that
coming soon on Strange Trek are the Bajorans The Vatican.
What race of people do the Bajorans really dictate?
Oh man, that is the episode we're gonna get canceled. They're gonna,
Oh,
they're gonna
oh,
come for us.
that's probably is one of those thin line episodes where we have to
We should
like.
not jump into the Bajorans
They'll
willy nilly.
they'll be like
Off the
episode
cuff.
50. Like let's
Yeah,
just keep it real.
we're gonna we're gonna
I'll
have to take some time to figure out how to approach that one. You got the wormhole aliens. You got the mixing of church and state. The fact that they had been oppressed by a fascist government, and then they had to cut a deal with the fascist government to like. It's definitely a
because
Vatican
it's
Catholic
like
Church Italy situation.
on one end they could be Jewish, on one end they could be African American. On another end, you point out the whole Vatican situation. It's like it's a number of uh, things that happen within the human history that they rolled into this race.
Unless you want to be talking on this Star Trek Resurgence background until like 6 in the morning Eastern, we probably
We'll
should
talk
leave them
about
out
that.
for now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We're gonna have to
We'll talk.
table that for now.
I'll put that on the list though.
That is a good addition to the list.
Okay, so any other races that come to mind that uh, we probably should throw out? I mean, there's granted, like here's the crazy thing with some of the other races, we don't know a whole lot to be able to state otherwise.
I was gonna say I can't think of anything.
Like Betazoids, we don't know what type of government their society
Yeah, like
goes
her mom was
towards.
like the fifth house of something,
Yeah,
and I don't know what that means. And honestly, she makes Deanna makes it sound like it doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't mean
At some
anything.
point, yeah. I mean, obviously the Borg are fascist. I don't think we need to
Really,
dig
I would
deeply
say
into that.
otherwise. And this is what. No, I'm joking. That's
I know, right? Where is this argument going? Turns out he voted
absolutely
for he who won't be
nowhere.
named.
Absolutely
Yeah.
nowhere.
And I don't know enough about the Andorians. I don't
Andorian
really know enough about the Tellarites. Like,
Tellarites
there's a
to a
lot of
certain
races.
degree. Well, even the Andorians to a certain degree, from what they depicted on Enterprise. I'm pretty sure in Enterprise, if it had gone on longer than 4 seasons, that they probably would have fleshed that out more.
Yeah.
But you're
But
right. We
what,
don't know much. You don't know a lot.
yeah. And when they flesh it out, because they're founding members of the Federation, what would have, and we determined that the Federation is well defensed but could fall into it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't think of another more interesting. I mean, I'm sure if anyone stumbles upon this and then whatever you edit it down to, they probably could like write a few more races that we should be thinking about. But yeah, I
None
can't
that
think
I,
of any.
none that I can think of that like that Star Trek has done a good job of fleshing them out enough to be able to say, "Oh, this is how their political society is run. This is what their people think. This is how they're actually ran." Da 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 da. So I think
Yeah, we're just gonna
the
have to.
yeah, we hit the major races. Like the Bajorians would be the other one because we do know a lot of that stuff. But like you said, we'll probably be talking to like 6 o'clock in the morning, and both you and I have jobs that we have to go to. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, let's
Yeah, we're
table.
gonna have to cover them off another day because that's well, you can get. I mean, that's gonna take us deeply into religion here on this Sunday night, running into Monday morning thing. Like, yeah, they're their own episode.
Well, I
The
think
Dominion is fascist. I don't think anyone
oh,
would
100%,
disagree with that.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
What the Breen would probably be another one, but like we don't even we
Wait,
heck we barely know anything about the Breen.
yeah, exactly. I was thinking about the Zindi, but the Zindi have a democratic organization. They're almost like a counter federation. Like it doesn't feel like they are fascist when we meet them, at least. But
Mm, mm, mm.
they're
I,
ruled by a council. I mean, I don't
they
know.
are ruled by council, so it's not no one person. So yeah, by that definition,
And they don't have people like the whale people aren't trying to make everyone else whale people. Like,
okay, okay,
and
yeah,
the Zindi actually eventually
yeah,
joined the Federation. So
yeah. You're right. Okay, I'll lean with not fascist on them. So like literally, I think that's the main. I think we hit everyone that we
yeah, I
can.
think we got them all. Have fun editing this episode.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
The,
Okay,
the,
thank you.
when
Pardon.
you try to chop this down to an hour.
Pardon. Oh no, I could never. Truth be known, I don't chop these episodes down to a specific length. I just try to take out what I feel doesn't really belong.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Is the best way of putting it.
But nah,
Okay,
I think we're good.
I think we're going to end it there. So, thank you for joining us on this episode of discovering what fascism looks like in Star Trek. And we just determined that the Federation are not fascists. However, our society could be leaning more towards that direction. Hopefully not.
Please not.
I hope not. Like we said before, as long as there are people that are willing to fight against it, uh, the possibility of us going in that direction could be small. But the more people who go for it will make that incredibly difficult.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
So that's all for today. Join us next time on our next topic. We're not particularly sure exactly what our next topic going to be. We'll discuss that more. And of course, we're trying to do this where it's at least a weekly thing. Granted, life a lot of times happens, so we can't fully commit to that. And like we both said, that we have jobs outside of this. So we'll try to upload as much as we can, but we're signing off with some wonderful, great words from Captain Picard.
It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life.
Until next time, explorers, y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week.